Hi everybody and welcome to SA Rugby. Got Mark Keohane. Mark, finally something to talk about, the opening of Super Rugby, but in a different guise.
Different guys. It's a beautifully glorified old New Zealand NPC. It's the 5 New Zealand franchises, 20 matches, starting on the 13th of June. And if you're in South Africa, wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and at 7 a.m. those will be your 2 games. And it's the Highlanders Chiefs in the opener, and then the big one in Auckland. It's the Blues against the Hurricanes, and it's the Barrett brothers against each other, and it'll be Beauden Barrett's debut.
That'll be a good game.
So it'll be a good game, and it's all afternoon games there. And I think you're going to also see them play a bit differently to how they have been playing in Southern Hemisphere Super Rugby, because there's going to be this need to really turn it on in terms of flamboyance, barbarian type rugby, to kind of just...
So you think we'll be seeing some high-scoring games?
I think we're going to see some high-scoring games, and you're going to see the fitness levels won't be what they would have been ordinarily. That no one has ever trained in isolation to come back and play. Yeah. So your defenses won't be as structured. I think it's going to be some fantastic rugby in that first month, and with some great players playing as well. So thank God it's not the Australian conference that's coming back first.
I wouldn't, Mark. I'd probably go down and watch Sacks under 14 play their third team, fourth team. I mean, people are desperate for sport.
Yeah. So
it's a huge part of our psyche. It's a huge part of what makes us feel better. And even if it was Australia, I have to put my hand up and say I'll probably watch it.
Yeah,
as long as I can find an angle on the betting front.
No, I take it from that point of view, but I'm just saying, thank goodness it's more Blues, Hurricanes, and it's not Reds against the Rebels.
Well, I'll tell you, the people who used to laugh at me for placing a bet on women's curling aren't laughing anymore. It's a bit desperate for any sort of sport. Let's quickly get into Jake White. His appointment with the Bulls. Without a doubt, a great coach. I'm not convinced that he's the right personality to be running Bulls rugby. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, good for a year. He's been fantastic. If you look at his career, when he took over the Springboks from Rudolf Stroili, when he went and took the Brumbies, who were a mess, turned them into kind of finalists. They were an ankle tap on Clyde Rathbone away from beating the Chiefs in the final. Came back, took the Sharks to top of the conference in South Africa, semi-final away against a very good Crusaders.
So he's got proven results over the short
term. He comes
so he's
in,
a 100-meter sprinter.
Now he comes in, he takes something that is fairly diabolical, understands the basics of, I get a team fit, conditioned, and identify 2 or 3 marquee players that I can build a team around that initially has damage limitation. So if they were taking 50 points, they won't take more than 15 under him. And slowly he starts kind of getting that confidence going, and he will turn a team that's finishing 14th, and they'll be a top 6, top 5 team. That I know he can do with the Bulls.
But why does he always leave? And I don't get the impression that the decisions are always his when he leaves. I mean, let's go over. He's been, after the World Cup, he went where?
He went to Australia, okay?
Well, he went to the Lions for 3 months.
He went with the Jake White winning ways and kind of, again, got them right, but then wasn't committed to it. So he just had to get them into the top 4 of Currie Cup. Didn't even attend the last 2 games against Griquas. They lost one of them and they ended 5th. Then he went over
both of them.
They lost both, but I'm saying they only had to win one of the 2.
Yes.
And I know he was giving a talk at Durnville Rugby Club and coaching from the phone that afternoon. So it's his commitment.
Well, I think that spoke of the arrogance of the man back then.
Without a doubt. Then he went to Australia, got humbled. Did well in his first season with the Brumbies. Second season kind of really stamped his authority on it. But they looked like a South African team. They were mauling. The ball never went past 9. It was Jake White kind of winning rugby at all costs. Then he came back to the Sharks. Him and John Smith put aside their differences that they had post at the 2011 World Cup, when Jake was very insulting of John Smith being at the World Cup. Spoke about his weight.
Didn't he call him fat?
Yeah, he said he wasn't good enough to be a hooker and he's too fat to be the prop.
Yeah.
And it's something you just don't do.
It's just what you want to hear from your
coach, your under 20 World Championship coach when you were the captain, and also your World Cup coach.
In fairness, Jake was probably right.
I think, but it's like when he bet on the Box going out in the quarterfinals against Australia on Sky News and Sky Sport, and then kept on saying, but what was the issue? They did go out. But it was the players were saying, we didn't expect to hear it from you, that you had such little faith in the team you had just taken to the World Cup. No. Then he went to Australia, kind of did well with them. Then the Australian job came up, and he went for an interview there, thought he was going to get it, didn't get it, and bailed from the Brumbies. Patched things up with John Smith, who was now the CEO, came back, also did well again in kind of getting discipline back, had a fall-up with Smitty again, had a fall-up with all the senior players, and bolted from there.
Yeah.
Then went to Montpellier, exactly the same thing, drafting a lot of South African players, got structure, got discipline, got a winning mentality. They won a European Shield for the first time ever. He got them into the Heineken Cup. The way they played didn't suit the Montpellier's history. Their crowd attendance went from 15,000 to 11,000 on average, and he dropped a lot of local players. He had more French players, more South African Duplessis in his team than he had French players. As the one French player said, the only thing that happened when he was there was my English improved, but my rugby went the other way. And then Francois Duc, who had grown up in the club since the age of 6, he left the club, and Jake White wouldn't pick him for his last game. And he said, it's all about winning. It's not about sentiment. The president then said, well, you take your bike and off you go. Then he was kind of been out the wilderness, went to Japan for a couple of years, and kind of been off the radar there in that won a few of the knockout tournaments. But the most I've heard about him was his comments on South African rugby. So the Bulls, I think, suits him for what he does. The character test is going to be, can he survive 2 years behind and not be a destructive influence to Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks? And the jury must be out on that, because history tells us...
Do you think Jake is capable of shutting up and not saying the wrong thing and being supportive to a Bok coach with provincialism being so prevalent?
Not at all. I think if you look at Jake's history and you look at Jake and Rassie, and you know, I've known both of them for 20 plus years. There's no love lost between the two of them.
Why?
Well, it's primarily from Jake's side. Rassie's a reactionary in that he's kind of like, this is how the guy acts. Why should I kind of present the olive branch?
Yeah.
But Jake's thing has always been born out of insecurity, professional jealousy, and it doesn't really matter what he did. And we go back to when he won the World Cup, and you know yourself, when we were kind of doing some business ventures with him, it's like, you put the flag up on top of Everest, be proud of it. Help someone else go and put another South African flag there. Don't be angry that someone else goes and does it.
I think that's my biggest thing, my biggest problem with my interactions with Jake earlier on, was the lack of humility, the lack of wanting to celebrate other people. You know, it's one of those things that I hold dear, and think that, you know, you're all working on the same team and you get stuck. But he's so divisive in the things that he says.
Yeah, and it's again, he's always dined out on the fact that he was the World Cup winning coach. There wasn't one post him. Now there is. His name's Rassie Erasmus.
Yeah.
So you now got 2 World Cup winning coaches who won away from home.
Yeah.
Just that Rassie did it in a far more spectacular way in terms of how he broke down boundaries beyond rugby, which makes that 2009 team the most significant of the 3 World Cup wins, because it spoke to a nation. It was a team that was finally representative.
Some people from '95 will argue against that, but I agree with you.
You know,
It was you know, you've heard of the miracle on ice. This was a miracle on the field. I mean, in terms of what he did in such a short period of time to get a team ready to win the World Cup, is legendary. And like you say, Jake's win falls definitely third on the World Cup accomplishment ladder.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at SARugbymag magazine's been running a poll for the last month, list of the 3 World Cup coaches. Yeah. And I also, you know, polls I take it with a pinch of salt, because out of sight, out of mind.
You can take them with a pinch of salt, but Christie's out of sight and out of mind. And
yeah, he's on 12%, Jake's on 7%, and Rassie takes the rest. But the thing for me is that he comes in third, okay? And
well, no, he doesn't come in. They both come in. They were both lapped 5 times by Rassie.
Yeah, I know. He's on the podium.
Yeah,
the podium of 3. I think he will do well relative to what there is. The challenge for Jake moving forward would be, can he take a team that is good and make them exceptional?
I'm going to say no, because he doesn't have the interpersonal skill.
And that's where
unless he brings in a foil, that team, they'll do well for this. They'll do well in the Currie Cup. They'll do well in the end of this Super Rugby, and they'll do well for next year. And then it'll all fall apart.
So when you just going back to your original thing, is he the right guy for the Bulls? I think yes, to fix something. But he's not the right guy to take the Bulls and create some form of legacy over the next 10 years. And he doesn't have a Heineke Meyer type commitment to the Bulls to want to be there for the next decade.
Yeah.
Jake will go there, will fix it, and the moment that team starts winning, he will start seeing which international side he can coach.
Yeah.
Is there a gap back for him to coach the Springboks? Is England looking for a coach? Is Wales looking for a coach? Or is there a huge European club offer? And if a Stade Francais came out or a Leicester came out and said, we're offering you X amount, and Jake was halfway through rebuilding the Bulls, I tell you, he'd be on a plane and he'd be there. Unfortunately, his history and his timeline shows that he goes one where the money is, but he also goes very quickly within 2 years. He keeps on saying in the interviews that I've read that he's a changed man, that he's committed to the Bulls, and that it's not going to be a 2-year stint. He wants it to be beyond 2023. He's saying all the right things. He wants to build a strong base to give to Rassie, because if the Bulls are strong, the Springboks are stronger. It all sounds wonderful, but I've kind of just seen so much of him over the course of his career self-destruct, because he's a bloody good coach, technically one of the best, and he can add value. But unfortunately, that personality of his isn't secure enough to be number 2 in a setup for the greater good of South African rugby.
Yeah. Well, the proof will be in the pudding. I hope it works out for the Bulls. I really do. It'd be like Jake says, and everybody knows, if you've got a powerful Bulls team, you've probably got a pretty good South African team. So it'd be nice for them to be a feeder to the Bulls, to the Springboks.
Yeah, and you also look at, I've seen all the memes go out this week that with the New Zealand teams opening on the June the 13th, playing behind locked doors with no spectators, that the CEOs of the 5 respective unions have been in touch with the Bulls to understand how they do it, because they say they played their whole season like that. So I also don't want to hear those jokes. I love the Bulls. I grew up supporting them. So I want people to be talking about the Bulls as they were a decade ago when they won 3 Super Rugby titles in a row. Yeah. They had 7 of the Springboks in their starting 15, and effectively the Bulls pack was the Springbok pack, and 5 of those players went on to become some of the greatest rugby players of their generation. If you look at the Bakkies, Boertes, the Dani Rousseaus, the Victor Matfields, Pierce Spies, who was a very good player, and then obviously the man for Rita Prayer. Yeah. Let's get that quality player back again. And Jake has signed. He signed Wayne Vermeulen. He's getting Arno Botha back, and he's got 1 or 2 others in the tight 5 that he's bringing back. So already he's making sure he's got a pack. Yeah. And then he's going to get Damian Willemse as well, and that's through the Johan Rupert connection. So he's let Marnie Libbok go and bet on that one, that Province and the Stormers will probably lose Damian Willemse to the Bulls. And let's hope Jake can actually nurture him and not put another one on the scrap heap.
And what do you make of Edgar Rathbone as the CEO appointment?
Very good. He's very talented. He had to get out of that. He's done his apprenticeship at the Lions. Yeah. Always been a through and through Lions man, but a very highly rated within the industry. The only red flag that I saw was when he said he's never met Jake, he's never worked with him, but he's looking forward to learning a lot. And you just can't give Jake that one little in that he knows more than you do as the CEO, because then he's going to become the CEO. So if he can balance that, it's a young guy who wants to do well. With Willem Strauss there as president, I think they can do well. But, geez, it's all dependent on, has Jake evolved? Has he changed? And is he willing to be someone who wants to bat for the greater good as opposed to his own individual agendas?
Well, let's hope it works out.
But a good appointment, and nice to see movement there in terms of players, coaches, and
should make for an interesting Super Rugby South African competition, whatever guys it's going to be reimagined as. Yeah,
because speaking to Mark Alexander, and he says that all the talk is that they're trying desperately hard, given everything has to be within government protocols, but to get a competition going by July was the initial thinking, if not at least by August, and it will be very similar to what we're seeing in New Zealand. It will be probably the 4 Super Rugby franchises plus the 2 Pro 14 teams. And it would be home and away, each one plays 10 matches, and there's a final. And it would be going back to the glory days when it was strength against strength in the Currie Cup. And we will definitely have a Super Rugby winner, even if it's in the South African Conference.
Yeah, here we go. I think that's fucking great. I'm great. He's great.